Tableside Talk. My name is Cam Kelly. I am a commercial real estate associate with the Langert Commercial Group, and to my right is Evan Langert, our principal and founder. Evan?
Hey everyone, as Cam said, I am the principal and founder of the Langert Commercial Group. Also, I have 35 years plus of commercial real estate experience. Been a broker for the last 15 years. Prior to that, I was a high-level commercial real estate attorney, did some stints with big publicly traded property owners. And so we've instituted these table talks so that I could take some of the experiences and the knowledge that I've gained over these last 35 years and share them with you in the hopes that they'll benefit you with respect to transactions that you're conducting or your practice or other applications. So today's topic, Cam, what are we talking about?
Today we'll be discussing 1031 exchanges. Evan, as you know, we recently closed a transaction in New York for a 1031 exchange, and I was hoping you'd be able to discuss the general process and considerations that someone should think about if they want to do a 1031 exchange.
Sure. So one, you mentioned the one we just closed in New York. Interestingly, it was a sale of a property in Maryland replaced by a property in New York. But it also, just if I could go down a rabbit trail for a second, it shows that the Langert Commercial Group, although we are located in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore corridor and serve those metropolitan areas, we also have done a fair number of transactions in a bunch of other states, multiple transactions in Florida, Georgia, transactions in North Carolina, Virginia, D.C., Maryland, of course, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, several others, and have worked on some things throughout the country. So don't write us off if you have something that's outside of the area. If we can't help you, we'll let you know. And I lived in California for years, and I've had positions where I've got contacts all over the country. So if we're not the right folks for you, I can likely hook you up with the right folks in wherever you're looking to invest. I've done that many times. So now back to the 1031 situation. So a 1031 exchange is named for Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code. If you were to inherit a property that's got a basis of $1 million or buy a property for $1 million, and you sold it in a year or two or five or whatever, and it was now worth $2 million, you would pay capital gains tax on the $1 million gain that you got. Section 1031 allows you to forestall taxes on it. So this is an oversimplification, but if you have a property that you bought or inherited that's got a basis of $1 million, it's now worth $2 million, and you want to sell it and buy something else that's say $2 million or above, then you are not going to pay taxes on the gain. People do this. It's a wealth building strategy. People just do one 1031 exchange, hold for a while, usually based on depreciation or sometimes accelerated depreciation, which is another topic for another time, and then they replace their property with another 1031 exchange. Unfortunately, the code has some hurdles that you have to jump through. So there's some dangers that are inherent in 1031 exchanges. For instance, when you sell your property, that you and then the proceeds come, you can't receive the proceeds. You have to hire what's called a qualified intermediary, and the proceeds of your sale have to go to the qualified intermediary, and they have to hold them. So if you sell a property and you receive the proceeds and then you say, well, I want to go do a 1031 exchange, you can't because you have received the proceeds, not the QI or qualified intermediary. And then you go look for your replacement property. You have, after you close on the property that you sell, you've got 45 days to identify replacement properties. There are different permutations out there in the 1031 world, but most commonly you can choose three, and then you have to put them on a sheet that you turn into your qualified intermediary within that period of time, and those are the properties that you can replace the one that you sold with. Um, if something happens with the 3 properties on that sheet, and you don't buy one of those, you cannot later put other properties down and say, well, those 3 sold, or they didn't turn out to be as good as I thought, so I'll just go find another one. Well, you've lost 1031 treatment if that's the case. So you have to do a bit of a dance with these types of things. In a hot market, you could find that properties that you like and that you would want to invest in are gone, because you weren't, you didn't bid on them. You just looked at it and said, well, I talked to the people selling this replacement property. It's a good property. I'll put that on my list. Same with this one here. Same with that one there. And especially if they're out of state and sight unseen, things can happen. So I'm thinking of my first 1031 exchange that we did. We had a buyer was interested in properties in Florida, Georgia, Texas, things along that line. So we made a list. There were 3. We didn't turn it in yet. And then we flew down to Florida to start looking at properties. Well, the first one ended up to be much older and in much worse condition than we had been told by the people who were selling it. It looked really good in the photos. It turned out it wasn't, the broker didn't give us intentionally bad information, but the property was at least 15 years older than it said on the listing. And the pictures looked good, but there were holes all over the exterior of the property. There was a black mold in it, and my buyer looked at it and said, there's no way I'm buying this property. So if that was one on his sheet that it got turned into the QI, that's out of the running. The second one we had negotiated, it was a Dollar General, and we had negotiated an LOI, but hadn't gone to contract yet. And then we got a call from the people who were selling it, and they said, hey, I've got some bad news for you. We've got someone who wants to buy a portfolio of $3 Generals, and this is one of the ones they want. So sorry that we've negotiated a non-binding letter of intent, but we're going to go ahead and sell that property to someone else. So had those 2 properties been on a sheet that we turned in to the qualified intermediary, we would have had 1 property left that we hadn't seen. It was in North Carolina, and so we would have been in really bad shape with respect to the 1031. So there's some tools, tricks to the trade that you have to work to navigate the 1031 system. Not trying to do anything exhaustive here. There's a lot of other information that you need to know, and there are some other mechanisms. There are reverse 1031s and Delaware statutory trusts and other things that you can utilize to try to forestall the taxes. But that's it in a nutshell. They're great vehicles, but with the hurdles that have been placed into the code, they're a slippery slope. So make sure that you talk to us or somebody else who knows their way around 1031 exchanges. We've done several, and we'd love to help you with yours. That's what I've got for my synopsis.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything from the 1031 exchange that we recently performed that would be noteworthy to discuss?
Yeah, a lot is property dependent. So a number of the 1031s that we've done have been, single tenant, national credit, properties. So that's far different. And also who's got what responsibilities under the lease. In most of these cases, the tenants had all of the responsibilities with respect to payment of taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, repairs on the building, things along that line. The one that we did in New York was actually 3 properties, and they were multifamily, and so that it was very different in a lot of ways. It was different with inspections. There are a lot more leases involved. The tenants for those things, they don't pay your taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, not directly like you would in a retail or usually a industrial purchase. So and then you've got a lot more to vet there, and then there's a lot more management to those things. So you've got to have a property management company on site that you trust, or do it yourself. And you're going to you will inevitably, I can say, after all these years, end up going up to the property at some point in time. So, I mean, that's not directly a 1031 thing, but it is. There are differences in how you have to wade through the transactions depending on what you're buying and where. But that's about all I have that comes to the top of mind.
Okay. Well, Evan, thank you for that information. Everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of Tableside Talk. Of course, we will make it incredibly easy to get in touch with us, and we're more than happy to answer any of your questions. Anything to close up?
No, just as always in these snippets, we remind you that every situation is different. We're giving out general information so that you know that there are hurdles with 1031 exchanges and that you know some of the moving pieces. By no means should you attempt a 1031 based solely on watching this video or any other video. Call us. We don't charge for initial consultations, and we would like to talk to you about your personal situation, not just give you general information. So feel free to call, email, catch up with us somehow. That's all I got.
Cool.
Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.